Tomorrow, the suspected killer of United Healthcare CEO is due in court to face his arraignment on several charges from New York State prosecutors. The state case includes charges of murder and terrorism. Luigi Mangione is facing a separate federal prosecution as well, including one count of murder. That count is eligible for the death penalty. We'll bring in defense attorney Misty Marris. Misty, thanks so much for being here with us. Take us to tomorrow and what we can expect.
So tomorrow is the New York State case, and this is where Luigi Mangione has been indicted, meaning that a grand jury convened and determined that there was probable cause that a crime was committed and that he's the one that committed the crime. So he will go into court tomorrow. He will presumably plead not guilty. There could be a discussion of bail, which his attorneys may make an argument, although it is very unlikely, if not impossible, for him to actually receive bail. But that's how the proceeding is going to play out. We're likely to get that not guilty plea on the record, and then the next step will be a potential preliminary hearing off to the races towards trial.
And then there's this question of, you have these state charges that I just talked about, and then you have the federal charges as well. How do those interact with each other, affect each other?
Yes, so this is the state case. As we just spoke about, an indictment has already been done. In the federal case, it's at the complaint stage. So the next step is for a preliminary hearing to be held that's scheduled for the end of January, or a grand jury could convene and indict in the interim. So the timing and the procedural posture is a little bit different for both, but the facts of the cases overlap tremendously. The legal theories, however, are very different. In the federal case, it's about stalking Thompson, that Mangione over interstate lines. He came from Atlanta to New York for the purpose of killing Thompson with a firearm. So that's the federal case. Whereas the state case relates to this amplifier of in furtherance of terrorism, that's why the murder was committed. So the legal theories are a bit different, but what we saw, Jessica, in that criminal complaint, which related to the federal charges, all of these excerpts from the manifesto, they actually are very relevant to the New York State case, where prosecutors will have to prove motive. They'll have to prove that the motive is more than just a personal vendetta, that there is a broader purpose to impact a policy or to force or coerce a civilian population. So there's a lot of overlapping factors that will be at play, although the cases proceed in two different courtrooms.
I'm also curious what your take is on the potential impact in the courtroom, or in this case, for all of the public fascination, support for Luigi Mangione. I mean, even on SNL last night when they were making a joke, they just said his name and the audience went crazy, and Colin Jost kind of was like, oh, this, okay. It is kind of remarkable, but what kind of real world impact could that have?
The response is shocking, and I watched that SNL skit also, and just the audience enthusiasm for just his name being spoken is very shocking. So from a legal perspective, there are considerations that will need to be taken into account when you're selecting a jury. There's a couple of issues that prosecutors will look out for. One is what's called jury nullification. That's when jurors may go against what they believe to be the right outcome, meaning that they think the evidence is there to convict, but actually make a determination based on a public policy perspective or something outside of what happens in the courtroom. That's, of course, going to be an issue in a case like this, where we're seeing this type of response to the defendant. There's also something called the stealth juror, and that's a juror who wants to be in that jury pool, wants to be in that courtroom for the purpose of impacting the income or the outcome of the case one way or another. Have to look out for that. And then from a defense perspective, he's innocent until proven guilty, so you need a fair trial too. So voir dire process will be laborious, to say the least.